It's good to be back on home turf for this run after our little excursion into Pokemon Emerald last time, and this time we're running Poliwrath. This run is one that's really piqued my interest, because we ran Politoed starting as Poliwag a little while ago together on the channel. Politoed managed to get itself a very good time of 1:28.22, which put itself in 14th place initially on the leaderboard, so that is going to be the time that Poliwrath is going to be chasing for the entirety of this run. And without cheating and going to the end of this video, I really want you all to let me know which do you think will win. Will it be the physical attacking Poliwrath, or will it be the special attacking Politoed that takes the victory out of this little mini battle? And of course, to get this mini battle underway, we need to take a look at our stats. We're level 5 with 20 HP, we're holding a berry, and our only move is Bubble. In terms of our stats, we've got 11 in attack, 10 in defense and the specials, and a whopping 15 in speed. Poliwag is definitely a very nippy Pokemon, and now as we'll get the graphics up, we'll see just how well this line will do. Our first wild encounter in this run comes in the first patch of grass, and it's a level 3 Sentret. Now, Bubble isn't the greatest move in the world, so it takes 4 shots to knock it out, but once we're through this Sentret, we can then start massacring the local Geodude population until we grow all the way up to level 11, and then we can take the rival on for the very first battle. It stands to reason that the best starter for the rival to have in this particular instance is going to be the Chikorita line, and that combined with Bubble means we're going to have a bit of a slow start to the rival battles. We're in absolutely no danger of being knocked out ourselves, but it's absolutely a war of attrition. We do eventually knock out the Chikorita, getting almost all the way up to level 12, and then we can start making our way towards the first gym. We beat up a few more Geodude in Dark Cave before we took on Falconer, and that means we have a much better water gun on the learn set. It's a one shot on the Pidgey, and out comes the Pidgeotto. It's going to be a 3 shots with water gun to knock it out, so we grow to level 15, and we obtain our first badge, the Zephyr badge, in 9 minutes and 52 seconds. Let's now move along straight away to Bugsy, the second gym leader of the run. He's a bug type specialist who leads with Metapod. Water guns are 2 shots on the Metapod, and it's going to be exactly the same against the Kakuna, and we're on full HP for the Scyther. We're going to try and send the Scyther to sleep so that Fury Cutter doesn't build, and then we're just going to get to water gunning it. It doesn't matter if Scyther wakes up now, it's too little too late. We can finish it off with one more water gun. We grow to level 21, and we have defeated Bugsy in a time of 16 minutes and 15 seconds. We cannot celebrate for too long though, the dreaded Rival 2 is just around the corner, and we are of course going to be weak to the grass type. We'll engage him in battle and hope for the best with Double Slap and with Hypnosis, but the odds are very much stacked against us in this battle. We get through the Ghastly relatively easily, but then we don't hypnotise the Bayleaf on turns 1 or 2. It takes 3 turns to send it to sleep, and we get to Double Slapping. Double Slap is not a great move, and a Reflect is also up at this point, but we're getting very lucky here, and we're getting a few high rolls with the Double Slap. And in addition to that, Bayleaf just does not want to wake up from its nap. That means we get through the Bayleaf relatively pain-free, and we've only got a Zubat left to go. A pair of water guns knocks that out, and we are through the second rival battle on our very first try. And now, before taking Whitney on in battle, we're going to say oh hi Mark and take on Psychic Mark. He is of course a Psychic with a pair of Abra and a Kadabra, and we grow to level 25 against Psychic Mark. And of course it is at level 25 that we can say goodbye to Poliwag, and we're going to say hello to Poliwhirl. Poliwhirl's going to be seeing us fit for the mid part of the run, and it's just in time too because our next battle is against Whitney. She's a normal type specialist who leads with Clefairy. We headbutt the Clefairy as it converts itself into the ghost type, which I didn't notice, so we'll finish it off with a water gun, taking a little bit of damage from Double Slap, and here comes the cow. We're going to try and send it to sleep to make sure that rollout doesn't build up, and then we'll get to headbutting it. Our physical attack as a Poliwhirl isn't the greatest, so we're going to have to send it to sleep to make sure it doesn't use Milk Drink. And when we eventually make it take a nap, it's a pair of headbutts later to knock it out as we grow to level 26, and we obtain the Plain badge in a time of 23 minutes and 5 seconds. Let's now move forward into Ecruteak City, and more specifically the Burnt Tower, where the next rival battle is waiting for us. And you may notice we have two very important moves on the learn sets, those being Surf and Ice Punch. The combination of those together means we can do Quick Air Critique City. If you're not familiar with Quick Air Critique City, we skip going into the Air Critique Pokemon Center, and we also don't head towards the Lake of Rage to get Hidden Power, and we don't head west to get the Mint Berry. So the combination of skipping the build cutscene in Air Critique Pokemon Center and the significantly less backtracking we do can save an awful lot of time, but it comes with its risks against Morty. So let's now see how we get on against Morty, and it's a very easy two-shot against the Ghastly. We're onto the Haunter now, and it's a one-shot with Surf, and here comes Gengar. We have to make sure we don't get sent to sleep by the Gengar. We get incredibly lucky there, and this means that Quick Air Critique City will pay off. Even a Nightshade from the Haunter is not enough to save the battle for him, and we obtain the Fog Badge in 28 minutes and 12 seconds. Now, after doing the Lighthouse, we can then cross the sea to Cianwood City, where Chuck is waiting for us. He's a fighting type specialist, and he leads with Primeape. It's a pair of body slams to knock out the Primeape, and now it's Poliwrath versus Poliwhirl. We get sent to sleep by Chuck, and it was a 50-50 as to which berry we should be holding. We did lose a little bit of time here because of the sleep, but when we eventually wake up, we knock out the Poliwrath, and we earn the Storm Badge in 33 minutes and 58 seconds. And now this run is all about taking the risks so far. I want to try and get the best possible time for Poliwrath, so we're taking on Jasmine a little bit earlier than we perhaps should do. We aren't able to consistently one-shot Magnemite, but that was absolutely fine. We didn't get paralysed, but then Steelix sets up Sunny Day. The risk pays off though, because we get a lucky critical hit against the Steelix. We finish it off with one more Surf, and we are through Jasmine in 35 minutes and 19 seconds. Let's continue as a Poliwhirl all the way up to Price. We want to do as little backtracking as possible, so that means going from the Lake of Rage down to Mahogany Town without speaking to the fisherman who'll give us the Water Stone. I think this battle will be incredibly easy for Poliwhirl. We're already through the two trickiest Pokemon. We can knock out Price in one single Surf, and we obtain the Glacier Badge in 40 minutes and 35 seconds. Now I want Belly Drum on the learn set, so we're going to stay with the Poliwhirl a little bit longer until we grow up to level 43, and once we are level 43 we are going to use the Water Stone. The Water Stone will evolve us from a Poliwhirl into a Poliwrath, and having Belly Drum on the learn set is incredibly huge, because that means we can now max out our attack at will. We can also max out the attack at Koga, Bruno, Karen and Lance as well, but that's besides the point. Let's now engage the rival in his fourth and penultimate battle, where we're already on the Meganium. Meganium refuses to use an attacking move and poisons us, but in this generation, as long as you knock out a Pokemon, poison won't hurt you at all. So I think we're absolutely fine for the rest of this battle now. The final Pokemon is Sneasel. We finish it off with a single return, and we get through the fourth rival battle without taking any damage whatsoever. Now let's move on to our final Johtonian gym leader. This is Claire, the Dragon-type specialist who leads with 3 Dragonair. Ice Punch is comfortably a one-shot against all 3 of these Dragonair, so we're not going to get paralysed by Thunder Wave. That makes the rest of the battle an awful lot easier than it could otherwise have been. We use Belly Drum against the Kingdra as Smokescreen hits us, and even though we miss return on our first try, it connects on the second try to defeat Claire, and that means we obtain the Rising Badge in a time of 55 minutes and 42 seconds. That is a very good time for Poliwrath so far. Let's see if we can keep this up as we engage the rival in his 5th and final battle. This time he's going to lead with Sneasel, and this time it's also going to get knocked out in one shot. Really, that Sneasel is just fodder for most of these challenge runs. It's a very easy set of stat experience. We decline the option to learn Mind Reader because it's quite frankly terrible when you don't have Dynamic Punch on the learn set, and then we will just continue sweeping. There is not a single Pokemon on his team that's going to prove to be any threat whatsoever, and after we defeat the Haunter with one single Surf, we can say goodbye to the rival once and for all in a time of 58 minutes and 52 seconds. And with that, we're at the Pokemon League, so we're going to heal up our Poliwrath whether we want to or not. I will say thank you to the HM friends. So it's a big thank you to Kenya, to Abra, to Psyduck and to Parrish. You've all been a great help in making this run possible in the Johto region. Get yourselves some much well-deserved rest while Poliwrath prepares for the Pokemon League. Before we go in, we'll take a look at our stats, and we are stacking up like this. We are level 51 with 100 683 HP. We are of course holding the Scamulet coin with Ice Punch, Surf, Belly Drum and Return. In terms of our stats, we've got 129 in attack, 135 in defense, 112 in special attack, 133 in special defense, and 112 also in speed. Those are the out of battle stats. We'll get a big buff in battle, as we'll see now, against Will. He is our first league member and he's going to lead with Xatu. Xatu's weak to Ice Punch, so we knock it out in a single hit, and up next is Jinx. Jinx can be threatening if it sets off a lovely kiss, so we'll just have to knock it out in one turn. The third Pokemon is Executor, and Executor goes down to a single Ice Punch. The next Pokemon is going to be Slowbro. We try not using Belly Drum here because I'm worried about taking some damage from Psychic. 3 returns knocks it out, and we can then finish off the final Xatu with another Ice Punch. Will should have been a threatening Elite Four member, but instead we got through on our first try in 1 hour and 13 seconds. Our second Elite Four member is Koga. He's a poison type specialist who leads with Ariados. Ariados goes down in a single shot. Venomoth isn't quite a one shot, and we take a little bit of psychic damage. And the third Pokemon is Crobat. And this pesky Crobat throws a giant spanner in the works. It hits us with Toxic, and now we're on a very short timer for the rest of this battle. This is not what we want to see when we've got a fortress in front of us. It uses Protect to stall us out. We are down to 47 HP as the Muck comes out. And then Acid Armor seals the fate for this attempt. There's absolutely no way to knock out Muck, and we're back to square one against Koga. This time I just decided to go for the Belly Drum strategy straight off the bat. This will provide a consistent one-shot for all of his Pokemon. This really is what we should have done from the start. I was just getting a little bit overconfident. I was hoping that we wouldn't get hit by Toxic from the Crobat, because that would have meant we wouldn't have had to spend the turn setting up. We're now back onto this pesky Muck though, and we're going to use Surf on turn 1. We're going to finish it off with a single return, and now we are through Koga on our second try in 101.36. And it's onwards and upwards to Bruno, the fighting type specialist of the league, who leads with a Hitmontop. And we're going to do exactly the same thing we did against Koga here. We're going to Belly Drum, and then we are going to Sweep. This is going to get us through this battle in the quickest possible time, because a lot of Bruno's Pokemon are actually quite bulky. The biggest bulk of them all goes to this Machamp, but with our Belly Drum and 603 in attack, we more than comfortably knock it out in one shot. We're going to rub salt into the wound by using an Ice Punch against the Onix, and we are through Bruno, and we can move on to Karen in a time of 102.14. And we're not going to change the strategy going into Karen. It's going to be another Belly Drum, and then we're going to try and Sweep. This battle does have a little bit of a risk attached to it though, because we did get sand attacked by the Scumbrion, but it very much feels like our Poliwrath has Keen Eye. We are not missing a single move against Karen, and that means this battle is going to be incredibly easy. We just need to keep on with the physical attacks, and we'll eventually knock out all of Karen's Pokemon, and we'll get through her in a time of 1 hour, 2 minutes and 55 seconds. And that means there's only one obstacle between us and the Hall of Fame. It's time for Lance, the Liar with the Flyers, and he leads with Gyarados. And once again, we're going to do the Belly Drum and Sweeping strategy. This is a little bit risky, but the main reason we are Belly Drumming is for the Gyarados as well as the Aerodactyl. Those are the two Pokemon who would not faint to either a single Surf or a single Ice Punch. Everything else will be absolutely fine. We're on to the Aerodactyl now, and it outspeeds us, and we survive on 8. That was incredibly close. If Lance had high rolled there, it would have been curtains for this attempt, and it would have killed any chance of Poliwrath getting a time in the top 10. As it stands though, we are able to get through all of Lance's Pokemon on our first try. We defeat him in a time of 1 hour, 3 minutes and 53 seconds, and that means that Poliwrath is running 1 minute and 50 seconds ahead of Politoed. We'll have to see if it keeps it up for the second half of the run though, so don't you dare go anywhere, because Kanto is next. And we rejoin the action here in Vermilion City, where the first thing we do in Kanto is the last thing we do in Johto. We're going to get another rare candy, this time from the chairman of the Pokemon Fan Club. And with that rare candy safely tucked away in our bag for another run, I am pleased to say that Poliwrath is more than capable of doing our standard Cantonian routing. That means we're going to start at Surge, we will move on to Erica, then Janine, we'll take out Sabrina and Misty and finish off with Brock, Blaine and Blue. That is the quickest routing I have found through Kanto, and it's my favourite routing to do, especially when we're on a quick time like this, because Poliwrath is not only in contention to absolutely demolish Politoed's time, Poliwrath's also got a chance at getting a time in the top 10 of the leaderboard, and that will be absolutely ludicrous. We'll have to see how Poliwrath gets on during the Cantonian Gym Leader Gauntlet. Those of you who want to skip ahead to the blue fight, it starts at 17 minutes exactly. And now for the rest of us, I want to take a little bit of time and decompress from the 2 Generation 3 runs we've done this month. We started off with Meganium in Fire Red, and the last video of course we did Blastoise in Emerald, and both of those runs share a couple of themes which makes them incredibly hard when you compare them to Pokemon Crystal. One of the issues I know how to get around, and that is the big jump between the final Gym Leader and then the Pokemon League. I think we have to take on some extra battles in Victory Road to give us that little bit of a leg up so that the rare candies are more effective when we need them in the league. I don't think that's going to waste too much time. It's probably going to be about 30 to 40 seconds per battle, but when you consider the high number of resets we're getting in Generation 3 at the moment, that should really drag the reset counter down. But the other one is a lot more difficult to get around, and that is the prevalence of Intimidate. It's worse in Fire Red than it is in Emerald, but both of those runs give physical attacking Pokemon an arbitrary handicap when you compare them to their special counterparts. There's no ability in Generation 3, and I think there's no ability even now that lowers special attack, and that means, especially in Fire Red, whenever we encounter the rival once he's got his Gyarados and or his Arcanine, we're going to be at either -1 or -2 attack by the end of the battle, and I really don't know what's the best way to work around this. One of the options I'm considering for Fire Red is avoiding giving the rival Venusaur unless we absolutely have no other choice. If it doesn't make logical sense to give the rival either Blastoise or Charizard, we will have to have that -2 in physical attack. And when it comes to Emerald, there's nothing we can do at all. It's not really rival parties that are the issue. It's mostly Team Aqua and Magma, and then the occasional Gyarados thrown in the mix as well. So I really would like your advice for Generation 3. How would you work around Intimidate in those particular runs? Because we've got to keep it true to the challenge run format, so we cannot just remove Intimidate from the game, as much as I would love to. But I really don't want to see a lot of these really strong physical attacking Pokemon get very low times on both the Emerald and Fire Red leaderboards, just because of this horrible handicap that Intimidate gives us. Of course, there are going to be some exceptions to the rule. As we see in this run, Poliwrath has Belly Drum on its learn set, so there are edge cases where we can maximise our physical attack, but for the rest of the time we're just going to be a little bit screwed. But anyway, that's enough waffling. I really hope you can all give some advice there. Let's now rejoin the action here in our final gym battle where we are facing Blue. Blue is of course a mixed type specialist who leads with Pidgeot, and we get off to a bit of a false start here because for the first time ever I misclick and click the load state button instead of clicking one of the buttons to actually do an attack. That's not going to count as a reset, that was absolutely player error, and thank goodness that happened at the very start of a battle. As it stands though, we've only lost about 5 seconds because of that misclick, and now that we've set up Belly Drum we can just get to sweeping. There's absolutely nothing on Blue's team that's going to survive a 724 attack, and especially because Gyarados in this generation does not have Intimidate, we'll surf the Rhydon just on the off chance that it would survive a return, but then we'll swap back to return for the Arcanine, we'll knock it out in one shot, and we are through Blue in a time of 1 hour, 18 minutes and 11 seconds. And that means we've got all 16 gym badges acquired. There's only one battle between us and our final time on the leaderboard. It's time for Red, and he leads with Pikachu. The bad news is we don't outspeed the Pikachu. The good news is Charm is irrelevant for the first turn of the battle. We also get through the Pikachu without being thundered, and we are on to the Espeon, but Espeon's Psychic hits like a truck and we get knocked out. We're going to use our first 3 rare candies here, and this time we're holding the Quick Claw. We're not going to outspeed the Pikachu, but Thunder misses on turn 1. But then he makes up for that on turn number 2. Let's now use another set of 3 rare candies to try and outspeed this pesky mouse. Outspeeding Pikachu actually comes with another problem. Now we've got to dodge the charm if we want to be at full attack. We're going to try and see how we get on with 607 in attack, especially because we Quick Claw the Espeon there, and then we can see how we get on against Venusaur. Return is enough to one-shot the Venusaur, and then we're going to swap to Surf on turn 1 for the Snorlax. That's because we don't want it to get into rest range, and a combination of Surf and Return makes sure we knock it out in one shot. The next Pokemon is Charizard. It hits us very hard with a wing attack, but we hit it even harder with a return. The final Pokemon is Blastoise. It's one of the bulkiest, and it critical hits to knock us out. So we are back to square one. I'm getting flashbacks to the Skarmory run here, where a very similar thing happened. And now we get to work on sweeping. Charm misses this time. We are now at 855 attack. But the Quick Claw doesn't activate against the Espeon and we get knocked out. But we are going to keep persevering. We have just under a 1 in 4 chance of getting through the Espeon. At 641 attack, we're going to be absolutely fine. The Quick Claw procs against the Espeon, so we get to see the rest of this battle. We know that Venusaur's going to be a one-shot. It was a one-shot all the way down at level 70. We're going to do the same thing against the Snorlax. Surf on turn 1 and then swap to Return to make sure it doesn't go to sleep. We also know that Charizard's going to be fine. We outspeed it now thanks to the Quick Claw, and we're on 135 HP for the Blastoise. It's going to be all over barring the singing for Red now, because we can finish it off with one single return to defeat Red in a time of 1 hour, 23 minutes and 7 seconds. Belly Drum is an incredibly powerful move, and Belly Drum alone has earned Poliwrath a place in the top 10 in 8th place on the leaderboard. That pushes Rapidash down into the page 1 drop zone, and then that also means we have a new leader of page 2. It's Aerodactyl there in 11th place, with Dodrio pushed down into the page 3 drop zone. And then that of course means we're going to have a new leader of page 3 as well. It's Butterfree's turn to lead page 3 now, with Skarmory rightfully pushed down another slot, and down in 88th place is still poor Shuckle. But with that, we are done. So if you have enjoyed this challenge, then please do make sure to leave a like. If you want to see more challenges just like this, then click the subscribe button. If you've got anything at all to say, leave it in the comments down below. And until next time when we're running Hitmontop through the Generation 2 Gauntlet, I'll say thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all very, very soon.